Even in the funhouse mirror world that is far-right lunacy, this was lunatic. Our #1 story, NBC's Law & Order SVU and executive producer Dick Wolf make a passing reference to the hot and cold running incitement to hate and violence that Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, and Bill O'Reilly constitute, and Beck and Billow act as if they have been violated.
I don't get why you're defending this wacko.
Faggot's a symptom, not the disease.
That symptom killed 3 kids.
Garrison, Limbaugh, Beck, O'Reilly, all of them, they're like a cancer spread in ignorance and hate. I mean, they've convinced folks that immigrants are the problem, not corporations that fail to pay a living wage or a broken health care system.
Save the soapbox, Randy. The cameras aren't even running.
Warm up the calliope of outraged impotence. Phineas T. Bluster O'Reilly is about to threaten to do nothing.
That is simply defamatory and outrageous, and Dick Wolf is a coward for putting it out there. He's also a liar.
Well, sue. Come on, tough guy. That's defamatory and outrageous. Sue. You sued Al Franken, you sued Andrea Macris. If that's defamatory and outrageous, now you have to sue. Because if you don't sue, you are saying, in effect, I, Bill O, agree I am a cancer, spreading ignorance and hate. Or are you afraid you can't prove that you don't spread ignorance and hate? Are you afraid there'd be a trial and then the subject of spreading ignorance and hate would come up and the defense would mention the assassination of Dr. George Tiller and then they would play this tape?
For $5,000, Tiller, the baby killer as some call him, will perform a late-term abortion for just about any reason. This man, Dr. George Tiller, known as Tiller, the baby killer, is performing late-term abortions without defining the specific medical reasons why. Tiller has killed thousands of late-term fetuses without explanation. No question Dr. Tiller has blood on his hands.
Tiller, the baby killer out in Kansas, acquitted today of murdering babies. There's got to be a special place in hell for this guy. This guy will kill your baby for $5,000, any reason. Any reason.
So if that isn't Bill O'Reilly, cancer spreading ignorance and hate, and if you aren't a coward, sue.
Patriotic Americans can debate illegal immigration respectfully. No one on the Factor has been allowed to demonize any innocent human being.
Oh, true. How very true. Here's an example of that.
He doesn't have a right to be here.
He didn't commit a felony.
He doesn't have a right to be in this country.
What? But that has nothing to do with the fact that he was a drunk.
He should have been deported. He should have been deported, and this mayor and the police chief didn't deport him.
Illegal immigration debated respectfully. Also, that was done in 2007, not long after Billow insisted the real story about a fire in New York City was not the 8 children burned to death, but his guess that the parents were illegal immigrants.
I mean, it's enough with these network pinheads who shove propaganda down our throats under the guise of entertainment.
As he says, I means enough. Hey, we're in agreement here, actually.
Yeah! I said off your weapon! Call medical!
What is your primary objective? What is your primary objective?
Secretary of Defense!
Enough network propaganda shoving. But back to Dick Wolf and Law & Order.
Again, enough is enough. I'm calling out Dick Wolf.
Wow, what are you going to do? Sue him? Or just send one of your stalker producers to try to follow him around with a camera because you don't have the guts to leave your studio like a man would? You're calling him out. You wouldn't even call him up. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. But of course, it wasn't just all talk Bill mentioned. If Law & Order might indulge us yet again.
I don't get why you're defending this wacko.
Faggot's a symptom, not the disease.
That symptom killed 3 kids.
Garrison, Limbaugh, Beck, O'Reilly, all of them, they're like a cancer spread in ignorance and hate. I mean, they've convinced folks that immigrants are the problem, not corporations that fail to pay a living wage or a broken health care system.
Well, guess who else didn't like that?
Because of me, Bill, and Rush? Where is the evidence for inciting any violence? Show it to me.
You got it, Sparky. Remember Richard Poplawski, who ambushed and killed 3 policemen outside Pittsburgh last April 4th, who told friends and posted on the internet that he was ready for the S hits the fan, the end of the world as we know it because Obama was coming for his guns? That was Beck's favorite topic last March before he became a gold shill. What did Poplawski post to a website called Stormfront? He posted a link to this video.
I told you that I was going to tell you about the FEMA camps or the FEMA prisons today. First of all, on the FEMA prison thing.
You're concerned that there might be setting up these camps that verge on concentration camps. There's no evidence that I can find that they're actually set up. But I think there's a justified concern.
If that's not enough evidence of violence resulting from what you, Mr. Beck, and Mr. O'Reilly have said, we could play the Tiller the Killer tape again, I suppose, or go through the story of James Atkinson, who walked into a Tennessee Unitarian church in July 2008 and killed 2 ordinary people because of one of O'Reilly's Fox News analysts. This was a symbolic killing, he said. Who I wanted to kill was every Democrat in the Senate and House, and the 100 people in Bernard Goldberg's book. I'd like to kill everyone in the mainstream media. So Goldberg inspires Jim Atkinson, and O'Reilly inspires the assassin of George Tiller, and Beck inspires the Pittsburgh cop killer. And who's really to blame? Beck knows.
Janine Garofalo smugly smeared millions of people on the other networks because she disagreed with their viewpoints. Listen to this.
This is about hating a black man in the White House. This is racism straight up. That is nothing but a bunch of tea-bagging rednecks.
Yeah, Janine was way off base there. No racial animus being incited by any teabagger. No racial hatred, not even from the teabagger in chief there.
Everything that is getting pushed through Congress, including this health care bill, are transforming America. And they are all driven by President Obama's thinking on one idea: reparations. This guy has real issues with race, real issues. This president, I think, has exposed himself as a guy over and over and over again who has a deep-seated hatred for white people or the white culture. I don't know what it is. This guy is, I believe, a racist.
Well, fortunately, the slandering of Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly and Bernard Goldberg is about to come to an end. Mercifully and finally, the liberal media is going to get theirs. Having succeeded in making those on his side of politics look like the most gullible, paranoid folks on the planet by pimping those high school humor quality Acorn videos, a man named Breitbart, and again, the name seems to be meant ironically, is founding a website with which he will, quote, fight the mainstream media who have repeatedly and under the guise of objectivity and political neutrality promoted a blatantly left-of-center pro-Democratic Party agenda. Let me give him 2 windmills to tilt at to start with. There is no liberal media. The media, which is, after all, owned by corporations, naturally leans to the right. Corporations, by definition, lean to the right, towards the status quo. If an American media outlet presents a progressive point of view, the right will exploit the media's tendency to desperately seek balance. And if the progressive says, no, Obama was elected president last year, they will mindlessly put in a clip of somebody from the right saying, no, he wasn't, it didn't happen. The second thing I already mentioned, in the Tiller, Pittsburgh, and Knoxville cases, Beck, Goldberg, and O'Reilly clearly incited murderous violence. And Dick Wolf was being over the top by comparing Beck, O'Reilly, and Limbaugh to disease, because comparing them to disease gives disease a bad name. And to paraphrase something from the web from several years ago, written by a fellow identifying himself as Bart Kopp, if Mr. Beck disagrees, or Mr. Goldberg disagrees, or Mr. O'Reilly disagrees, or Mr. Breitbart disagrees, and they think they're being crushed under the weight of this vast left-wing media conspiracy, they can go on the Orly Tate's Limbaugh show, where Orly will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or go on the Sean Hannity show, where Sean will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or go on Clusterfox and Friends, where Brian Kilmeade will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or go on Mike Huckabee's show, where Mike will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or go on G. Gordon Liddy's radio show, where G will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or go on Michael Medved's show, where Michael will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or go on Mark Levin's high-pitched radio show, where Mark will insist conservatives have no high-pitched voice in the media. Or go on the Neil Bortz show, where Neil will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or go on the Lou Dobbs radio show, where Lou will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or go on the Laura Ingraham radio show, where Laura will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or go on the Neil Cavuto show, where Neil will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or go on the John Stossel show, where John will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get David Horowitz to write a column in which David will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Bill Kristol to write a column in which Bill will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, or get Coultergeist to write a column in which Coultergeist will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, Or get Peggy Noonan to write a column in which Peggy will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Jonah Goldberg to write a column in which Jonah will insist his mom told him conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get John Fund to write a column in which John will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Brent Bozell to write a column in which Brent will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Cal Thomas to write a column in which Cal will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Charles Krauthammer to write a column in which Charles will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get George Will to write a column in which George will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Sarah Palin to post something somebody wrote for her on Facebook in which Sarah's ghostwriter insists conservatives have no voice in the media. Or get Matt Drudge to steal somebody else's column in which somebody else will insist conservatives have no voice in the media. Or pay Armstrong Williams cash to write a column in which Armstrong will insist conservatives have no voice in the media, and then he'll expense it. Because to conclude where we started, with Dick Wolf and Law and Order, in the right-wing dominated media system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the right-wing media who instigate crime and the right-wing media who prosecute the imaginary liberal media. Thank you.